Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gravely Amusing, the only horror sci fi podcast that's host is the son of a classic monster, the Invisible Man. I am Brian Peters. Steve is spending time with family this Labor Day weekend, so today I have with me my pal and horror lover, the host of the Krypton Report and Requel, which can
hmm
only be found on Patreon, right?
And YouTube. I started putting it on my YouTube page.
Oh, that's
It's,
that's right, because I subscribe to it and I should know that. I'm
it's all
sorry,
good.
I suck.
Nah.
But Jonathan Tyler Patrick, ladies and gentlemen, the
I'm-
Godfather, ladies and gentlemen.
the guy, he sleeps 30 feet away. Nah, I'm always up for talking about the monsters, the classics.
Absolutely. It's just thanks for being here again, man. And
You're welcome. And like this is officially, I'm gonna count this right here. I have my new shirt on, as you can see if you're watching it. It's the Frankenstein monster playing a punk rock bass. And for anyone who doesn't know,
so great.
I'm a bass player and I love uh like pop punk music and everything. My wife bought for me. I hadn't wore it because she bought it last year, right at the end of spooky season. So I saved it. So right here, the Gravely Amusing kickoff of spooky season, right here, right now, right now, boom. Mhm.
And I'm wearing the Gravely Musing T-shirt that Tyler made and gifted for me last year because he's such a good friend. Uh, supported me. I appreciate you,
Exactly.
Tyler. Thanks, man.
Exactly.
Well, welcome everybody to the graveyard because you have stumbled upon the podcast where one pop culture historian, writer type, whatever I am, and a horror loving co host give you everything you need to know about a horror sci fi subject, and usually about under 90 minutes, hour to 90 minutes. But we're going to try to make it an hour today.
Yeah.
But this is a monumental episode today because it is the 1 year anniversary of Gravely Amusing. And I have to admit, I wasn't sure that I would last this long. Most podcasts nowadays actually don't make it past 10 episodes. It's just the truth. It's just fact.
I think, you know, I don't doubt that. I just think that sometimes people lose interest or there's the cost analysis, with podcasting, there's a cost to it. But I look at like any other hobby that you invest in. Like I could go be putting money if I wanted to like build something, but I like having these conversations and creating these content. And then it's also cool because years later, I can look back on this stuff and hear, oh, that's me and Brian talking back when we first became friends doing something. Or like in my case, that's me and Solomon when he was 5. Oh, look at us having a conversation when he's 10, and so on. So, I don't know if that's why people quit or they just lose interest, but I don't know. I'm about to hit, if I haven't, I think this September, I'm right around 10 years of podcasting.
10
It's
years.
we had
You
a
started
Capes
podcasting at the right time.
we had a Capes and Lunatics 10-year anniversary where because it was me, Phil, and Kelly started podcasting for the TV show Gotham. And I missed recording with them because we had a family thing to take care of that was connected with the passing of Turia. But it was our one
Rest in
year.
peace, Rhea. Rest in peace, Rhea.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
probably not. She's probably trying to find ways to, annoy me, but bring it on. Um,
Aw.
which is fine with me. So yeah, I've been doing this for like 10 years and I just enjoy the conversations and getting to meet people. So I encourage people. Like I say, we don't have midlife crises anymore. We just start podcasting.
Exactly. Exactly. I know it's been a journey. Like, I think that probably people quit because when they start the podcast, they probably have like a decent following, but then like they start losing a following or so. Um, and then it just does it hurts the mental health sometimes. So who knows? Um, but I put too much on my plate when I started it. I try to do 2 podcasts. I had to take breaks due to life and stuff, but I think I've learned a lot. Tyler obviously knows more because he's been doing it for 10 years. But we thank you, listeners. We thank you, fans, um, and we can't thank you enough for being here. So if this is your first time in the show, and you like it, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, tell your friends all about me. I'm Batman. Last year, the first season of Gravely Musing, I spoke about the beginnings of horror in pop culture and in Gothic literature and Universal monsters. And Tyler was gracious enough to join me in some of those discussions. So
Hmm.
be sure to check those out. And of course, they were about Frankenstein and Dracula and the Mummy and everything. So one of our most popular episodes, Tyler, is still the Wolfman episode.
Because there's so much passion from me
So
in
much
that
passion.
episode. My passion. I like.
Passion.
You'll hear it again come January when you'll hear Brian and I talk about Lee Winnell's Wolfman movie that's coming out in
Yes.
January. So it'll either be me in love or me full of anger. We will
We'll
see.
see. We're gonna hit on that a little bit. Um, so Tyler's going to join me. Tyler joined me today to discuss basically what we feel are the worst versions of classic monsters and who we think are the definitive versions of each character. So the classic monsters, of course, are Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Wolfman, the Invisible Man, and the Gill Man, or the creature from the Black Lagoon. So we just wanted to have fun with this being the 1 year anniversary and have a little homage. How do you say it? It's French.
Homage.
Homage?
Homage. Homage.
Omelette du fromage?
Fromage. Cheese?
Homage?
Cheese?
Cheese?
Cheese. Cheese. Did we put you in a dumpster? Yeah, I got out. Cool, man. That's 2 old school references in one podcast.
That's what we're here for.
We're old.
Cheddar, where's that? Okay.
Oh, brought in the Goof movie. Ah.
Well, we always see things eye to eye, you know.
Boom.
So we won't be talking about every version and grade it, just mostly the most popular, most mainstream people. So let's get to it.
I have when we get to Dracula,
Dracula's going to be last. I'm putting Dracula.
I'm just going to throw this out there. I have a question to throw at you that I threw at Jania because we found out that the Little Theater off Broadway in Grove City is doing a play production in September of The Passions of Dracula, and we're going to go see it. Part of our love for Turia is we have promised that we're going to try to support the theater more and do more theater going. The theater, especially that she was a part of a lot, and we're getting back into theater. So, when we found out that they're doing that, we started having a conversation, and I will bring that question up when we get there.
Well, I'll be here to take that question. I hope everybody's liking this video thing we got going on here. Tyler kind of inspired me here. Try to make it look cool, and I hope everybody's enjoying it. So let's get to the Gill Man here. Okay, so we're gonna start with the Gill Man. So Tyler, we have the OG version, which is shown in the Creature from the Black Lagoon, which in my opinion is pretty darn underrated in terms of classic monster movies.
It is, and Solomon actually, we had a conversation about
Solomon is Tyler's son, everybody.
Yeah. Sorry, my awesome 9-year-old. His favorite is the creature, and we had an interesting conversation about how he's like, "Why do they call it Gill Man?" And I said, "I think it later kind of developed because people had to have a different name, like in Monster Squad, like is they couldn't say the creature from the Black Lagoon because Solomon a lot of time calls it just the creature, and so we just had that conversation." Actually, like a couple hours ago. So
now, if you would like some more info about the Creature of Black Lagoon, you could listen to season 1. I think it's episode 5, which is of Gravely Musing, which is on the Creature from the Black Lagoon and how it came to be. I think it's episode 5 or 6.
I don't remember because I just remember like your first 3 episodes were Frankenstein. So you paced.
Well, that was like a 3-parter.
Okay.
I'm moving to a 3-parter, but and then also in our season finale, Tyler and I talked about Monster Squad and the rights there. So we have the OG version, we have the late OG version, which is in the kind of like the Creature Among Us, where he starts wearing a sweater and they have him kind of using his lungs instead of his gills Like they're kind of making him more the missing link. Then we got Monster Squad, and I want to throw at you Abe Sapien from Hellboy. I just want to throw it in because hell yeah, Hellboy with Ron Perlman and Guillermo del Toro.
Doug
Um,
Jones, man. Doug Jones.
Doug Mother Flippin' Jones.
The first celebrity I ever met that I actually geeked out about. Because when I met him, I didn't realize that he was also Billy Bones from Hocus Pocus at the time. So I knew him
Yes,
from
sir.
Fantastic Four, and I knew him as Hellboy. And then when I found out he was Billy Bones, that's when I lost my junk.
He played Sue Storm in Fantastic Four. In
Yeah,
case
he was a
anybody
great Sue Storm.
amazing Sue Storm. And then we also have James Wan's version coming up, and which I probably shouldn't have mentioned that yet, but we're gonna get that. But I also want to throw in here Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water, the one that was just banging human chicks. You know what he always wanted.
But I listened to Del Toro talk, and there was allusions in the film that the main actress may not be human, but may be descended of the gill creatures. And he gave little evidence in the story, like how she had scars around her neck and stuff. And
Well, I
I've
thought at the end of the movie he made her a Gill person.
but I gotta, if I can find that article where Del Toro was talking about it, I'll send it to you. But it was interesting. It was interesting
Well, I'm going to read it.
if I
Absolutely.
can find it.
So, Tyler, based on that list, who do you think is the worst version of Gilman?
The one with the sweater.
Yeah. I'm going to chalk it up. That's what I feel too. Um, I think that was a horrible way to go. In my opinion, they probably maybe shouldn't have made a trilogy out of it. Maybe that
Mm.
should have been a standalone and just let it be,
Oh,
because
it's
but
that
that might be a whole different conversation.
it's that temptation if you just can't do one, man. You just can't do it. Like you gotta do it a sequel. Like, yeah.
Well, that was, I mean, it came out in the 50s when Universal Monsters were kind of going away,
Yeah.
and we were getting more into pushing aliens and bug-eyed monsters in the 50s,
It
which
was
is the theme of season 2 of Greatly Amusing.
which
But
it's funny because that's their like way of teetering it. Like it's a classic
segue, yeah.
monster, but yet it's kind of in the 50s sci-fi zone.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the worst version. So who in your opinion is the definitive version of Gilman? Like, people want to see Gilman, they're going to watch this movie.
Yeah. Mm, I'm 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 kind of torn on two. Okay. And that's why
It's probably the same two as me. Go ahead.
all right. I really am torn between uh Monster Squad because I think it's a beautiful modern esque interpretation of the classic Universal and trying to do that without doing that. And
Yeah.
then what do you call it? The next one is of course Del Toro's Shape of Water. Um
Oh,
because I
you
just
you're saying that the Del Toro's is better than the original OG.
I love the original,
Ooh.
but Del Toro has a passion for these monsters and these creatures. And I think you can see that brought to life in the details of his monsters and his films. I think Hellboy 2 is highly underrated, just throwing that out there. And I think
So underrated.
just looking at some of the pictures from Shape of Water, um, I think it's a great look, but it's also a look of being a monster, but teetering on not being a monster, for lack of a better word to articulate. Um, there is a look in its eyes and everything that you can kind of see that you're not evil. But the original, I think, is a beautiful design. Um, yeah, I mean, so, but yeah, those are my two.
Yeah, I'm Okay.
I guess
I
I'm gonna.
th-
If I had to pick just one, I'm gonna go with Monster Squad. If you told me I can only pick one, but I wanted
you
to
can only
throw
pick
up
one.
I'm gonna go with Monster Squad. I feel like it's the best representation of classic, um, and with a little bit more of a new spin at the same time. So
My definitive version is Monster Squad. And it helps that um, the guys that worked on the Creature from the Black Lagoon in the 50s also worked on this Gilman. So um, I think that Gilman just like I like how he's just kind of just breathing. I like how he breathes, like how he's like you know, and like just looks awesome. So that is my pick. All right,
and if
next.
anybody's looking why I keep grabbing at my phone, so I have notes on my phone. I'm referencing my notes, so just I'm not playing on my phone here, people.
It's okay. It's okay. You know, mostly when I'm with people, they play on their phones and they don't want to listen to me anyway, so it's okay. I'm just messing with you. All right, next up we have the Invisible Man. So the Invisible Man, we have Claude Rains, we have Vincent Price. Now we need to keep in mind Vincent Price played a whole different character. So most of these are whole different characters than the Doctor. Gosh, I forget his name. What the heck was Claude Rains' character in Invisible Man? Uh, I don't know. Moving on. Vincent Price was more like a kind of like a hero. Like he wasn't really a bad guy. He was just kind of like accidental. I'm throwing Chevy Chase in here from Memoirs of Invisible Man.
I
Kevin
love that movie.
Bacon.
I haven't watched that movie in a while. I love that movie when I was a kid.
Like the I watched it a good bit as a kid, and um, I try to watch it with Jen's family, my wife Jen and her family, and I forgot that in every single Chevy Chase movie, it's very uh, sexually driven at times.
Mm, mm.
Chevy Chase, like, there's always something that's very like, uh, sexually. Well, I mean, sexually driven. So, but in the Invisible Man, it kind of is a little bit. But we have Kevin Bacon and Hollow Man. And then I want to throw in the Invisible Man from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, Skinner.
Skinner, yes. And I want to throw in, of course, the latest one, Oliver Jackson Cohen from the 2020 version that Blumhouse did that, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
yes. And then I want to throw in if you think Johnny Depp would have been a good choice.
Oh,
So we,
the one that I thought of was from Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, Meet the Invisible Man.
yeah, I forgot to list that. I'm a horrible person.
Nah, we'll throw it in there.
Throw it in there. Throw it in there. So, who do you think is the worst version of the Invisible Man?
All right, so this is gonna be tough, but I'll give you my reasoning. Okay, I'm gonna go with Oliver Jackson Cohen
Okay.
because all the other stories of the Invisible Man stem from a similar occurrence of being some sort of formula, something scientific, something more horrific that happens to the person that causes the invisibility and causes them mental distress. The new version is a great film, but he's wearing a suit that basically reflects the images around him to make him appear invisible. He's not actually like invisible as a person, it's the suit. That's my rationale for that.
That is also my choice for the same exact reasons. um, you're my Earth 2, man. You're my Earth
I
2.
know.
You
I'm
know,
just saying.
yeah, it's, I think the movie's great. I think that it was a very good take on twisting the story. And I think it was great. But I do prefer the potion, the chemical type thing. So that's my worst. So who's your definitive Invisible Man? That if
I th-
somebody's gonna watch one movie that has Invisible Man thing in it, it should be this movie.
it comes down to a battle of two.
Like the last one.
I know, and I think I lean. I have to go the Claude Rains. It it was a battle between Claude Rains and Vincent Price, but I think I also look at the Claude Rains as being a great. He's more evil, but I also look at it just for the technical side of things they were able to pull off and wow audiences with that movie at the time. But it's the imagery, like it's the first one of the imagery with the bandages, and you have that great scene of him taking off the bandages. So
I I'm torn between two, but for the sake of being different, um, I'm choosing Kevin Bacon
ooh, ooh,
because I have one of my very good memories with my mom is my mom took me to a drive-in because I like and well she took me to a drive-in and we saw the replacements with Keanu Reeves
nice.
and then we saw Hollow Man
That is
and
a nicely weird lineup.
it's a weird lineup, but I remember it well because Hollow Man, showed boob, and as a young boy, yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
my mom's story about taking us to see Titanic and her reaching over trying to get my face and me pulling the mm, at the
you're like,
at the scene where
I want to draw like French, I want to draw French girls,
yeah,
but
back before back when they didn't tell you why a movie was rated what it was and you just kind of were like, we'll take the kids.
exactly. Ah, man, I miss the '90s. Um, but I'm choosing Kevin because I really liked how, like, one quote that he said that always kind of like is in the back of my mind when he's like, "True genius is being able to go from A to C without going through B." And I always love that quote. And I love how he's cocky and he's a dick before it happens, before he does the test of the serum, but then it just amps him more. And
It
and you
makes you
see the
ask,
insanity.
was it the serum or was it the ability to let yourself be free? And then if you had to blame it on something, you could blame it on the serum. Like that.
I mean, you could blame it on the alcohol, or you could blame it on the serum. I say, I say, I say that the serum amplified things like a super soldier serum, but it made him invincible.
Mhm.
So, do you think Johnny Depp would have pulled it off?
Yeah, because he's Johnny frickin' Depp. My only thing with Johnny Depp as the Invisible Man, I think he would have done great, is you're paying Johnny Depp to all of a sudden not see Johnny Depp, and you're gonna rely on voice work and mannerisms,
That's it right there.
which he can pull off because I mean Johnny Depp is great and most famous known like he disappears behind makeup. So now we're just making him disappear completely and leaving a physical performance and voice. And I think he would have done it brilliantly.
I think that if the Dark Universe would have happened, that Johnny probably could have been our definitive Invisible Man. I do. I really do. Because of that reason right there. Because he knows how to act and with mannerisms. So, Invisible Man. That's our answers. So, next up is The Mummy. So, The Mummy's been played by several people. and so we have Boris Karloff, we have Tom Tyler, who played. It was when they really didn't like. They were kind of like weird with the Mummy. They did like a Callus and then a Chorus, which you can check out our Mummy episode, which is in season one. We have Lon Chaney Jr., which played him the most times. We have Christopher Lee in the Hammer versions, which I have not seen, so I can't give my opinion on that. Then we have Billy Zane in the Mummy movies. Yes, yes, that's an intentional joke.
I know.
That's an intentional joke.
I love
There's
because
nothing you could tell me that Arnold Vosloo and Billy Zane aren't the same person.
yeah, that's an ongoing Brian thing. If you didn't know, Brian wasn't. He did not realize for a while, many years
For
ago.
30 something years that that it wasn't Billy Zane. I thought for so long, and I think everybody has, that it was Billy Zane. But
Because you
no,
just
it's
didn't
not.
think about it. You're like, oh, Brendan Fraser's sweet, and he's fighting Billy Zane. Just why wouldn't he fight Billy Zane?
Absolutely, and especially in the 90s, hot off of Titanic. But no, it's a guy named Arnold Vosloo. And then we have Jet Li as a mummy. And then we have
Mhm.
Sofia Boutella. And then we have Tom Cruise.
Mm. Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I mean it's
who is the definitive mummy? Who's the worst? Who's the worst?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, absolutely. What was it like? What were they like? They just wanted a name that was big to kind of sell this, but Tom Cruise made it his own freaking
The
thing.
the problem is when you cast Tom Cruise, the
Yep.
movie then becomes about Tom Cruise. So, if you watch a Tom Cruise film, even like his Mission Impossible, there are very few scenes without him. I'm telling you, watch some of the editing, especially more now. Okay, as he became more of Tom Cruise, right? The scenes that he's not in are small and short, or if he's not in it, they find a way to maybe edit him in a cutaway or something, and it's about him. And that was the problem with the Mummy is they took it in a very weird way at the end, and they made it all about him instead of letting the other characters breathe to build the universe. It was about him.
But Sophia was interesting.
She
Like
was, but
her mummy was interesting.
the problem was because of what they did with it, they went from making her the villain, the main villain, to undercutting her to making something even more powerful and worse than her. And you're like, oh, well, because they were trying to set up, I guess, the villain for the whole universe, but they could have done it better. And Brian and I have talked about that. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure we've recorded something about that, but you and I have talked about that for years.
so
About
much. Putting Tom Cruise in the movie, that's what ruined it. And I'm still very pissed off to this day that they didn't decide to stick with the plan. That they were just so scared because of like what that did that they didn't continue with the plan of doing the Wolfman and Johnny Depp as a Visible Man and Javier Bardem as Frankenstein.
that would have
Like
been
they should have
interesting.
just seen what happened. Um, but that's it.
I mean,
So, who's
there
the
was,
definitive mummy? Who is the best freaking mummy?
you know what? I'm gonna go with Arnold Vosloo. I
That's the correct answer.
Because I think he made the Mummy something more. The Karloff stuff I think was interesting to a point of the Mummy, but when you actually watch those films and then you come and you watch Vosloo, he made the Mummy a little multi-layered, but interesting in both. Even with the rough CGI, with his performance, still in there. And then when he fully is formed, he still pulls it off and he makes it more interesting. So he is my definitive Mummy.
Yeah. I have to go with Billy Zane on this one because with Boris, Boris has that great iconic look, but like Lon Chaney just played it more because in my opinion, and I talked about this in the last season.
I found it very
He,
fascinating, your discussion on it.
thank you, thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
Um, I just feel like I feel Lon Chaney was pretty good, but and I think I said that the sequel to the original Mummy was more interesting because it was kind of like more adventure stuff, and you could see where Steven Summers took that in the '90s. But for me, and I know it's not just because I'm a '90s kid. I'm not throwing a bias here. I I just think that Steven Summers nailed what the Mummy should be. Just this adventure with this overwhelming force against this adventure guy. And that's just my opinion. So Billy Zane all the way. So Next up, Tyler's absolute favorite, and like we're at the top three. We're at the tippy top right here, buddy. So, uh, who's your favorite, Tyler? I forget, buddy. Who's your favorite monster?
The Wolfman, Brian. And you know what's funny is
Oh,
so much of my love for the Wolfman is fueled not only by the film The Wolfman, but also by Abbott and Costello in meets the Wolfman, Frankenstein, and Dracula. Like,
yes, yeah. I mean, you know, we pretty much know the answer here, but
yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, we're not even.
like it's not even a question. The definitive answer, of course, is Lon Chaney Jr.
Yeah, I mean, Lon
But
Chaney. Yeah. Go ahead and talk. I don't want to talk over you.
you're fine, buddy. So we know Lon Chaney is the definitive, and I'm going to let Tyler go into why in a second. But the worst version of Wolfman, okay? So we have, well, we can't be Lon Chaney Jr. I threw in here for you Michael J. Fox and Teen Wolf, Jason Bateman and Teen Wolf 2, John Graz, so Uncle Rico and Monster Squad, the Van Helsing one, the one, maybe I messed up here.
You got Del Toro,
I put, oh yeah, I did put Del Toro.
Benicio del Toro's.
My apologies. The possibility and rumor that it could have been The Rock eventually.
Oh yeah, I remember that was announced, and I just said, "What?" Like it would have to be like a horror like a comedy. Like you couldn't play it straight.
He could not. So the possibility of The Rock as the Wolfman as possibly being the worst idea. Ryan Gosling, the idea of Ryan Gosling was I guess he wasn't enough. And then we have the future of Chris Abbott as the future Wolfman. So who do you think is the worst Wolfman, Tyler?
Okay, first of all,
Break it down for
before.
you, buddy.
We've said it before. The Wolfman is different than just a straight werewolf. There's certain rules and stuff that because it's a universal monsters term,
Absolutely.
the Wolfman. So you know, the ones that Brian listed are either go by the Wolfman or follow that same pattern and characteristics of the Wolfman, which is what Teen Wolf does. Okay. The worst one is Van Helsing, either the one that bites the prince, or Hugh Jackman. All of them garbage. And this is where I would get explicit if we had an explicit label. I'd be like that, okay? Because they completely undercut what the character is, what the story is. They make a generic werewolf. And then the way they have him transform is not the way the Wolfman transformed, with the wolf being underneath and ripping off the skin. That just seems very dark for a movie that wasn't being gruesome. Like, and the scenes where he's constantly changing back and forth, like that would be horrible. And that's my pick for the worst Wolfman.
We're doing good on time, so if you want to ramble more,
well, I will ramble more when we talk about the beauty of the winner.
For real. I do think the Helsing one is atrocious. I really do, for the same reasons as you do.
We could have mentioned Josh Hartnett. I didn't even think about it. He could have been on if we wanted to, because he did it for Penny Dreadful. If we just to throw something in there,
so
it's a tough one
for spooky season this year. I'm watching Penny Dreadful.
Yeah, I might join you on that quest.
I'm starting it tomorrow.
I might join you on that quest. I've only watched a couple, like the first season, because we started it and then Jania went into early labor, and then we just never went back to it after Solomon was born. So,
well, Solomon, big part. So maybe okay. Let's watch Penny Dreadful together, and then give our thoughts on each season as we go.
All right, let's do this.
Let's do it. And yeah, let's do that, because it's not as long as Supernatural. I still need to watch Supernatural.
It's okay. James and I have been doing the Supernatural report for 3 years almost, and we're only through 4 episodes.
Well, I did finish season 1 of Supernatural. Um,
Yeah, that's my boy.
but I need to keep going. So, I think the worst Wolfman, if you will, I'm going to go with Jason Bateman
Oh, really?
and Teen Wolf 2. And I think I think I'm going to choose that one because I need to be different than you. And and I think that Teen Wolf 1 just had so much charm with Michael J. Fox. And Jason Bateman is a great actor. And he has great comedic chops.
It's
But
just the film
like
in itself.
but the yeah, but Teen Wolf 2 is just very forgettable. Like I can't remember much of anything about it.
I agree with you. I it just the care the like didn't the coach come back or something? Like they tried to get who they could get back, and I will say, um, if you even want to talk about like just out of honorable mention, we'll say the first 3 seasons of the Teen Wolf TV series were really good. And then when they got their new showrunner, who will remain nameless, but he also ruined the Flash. When
You
he
don't
stepped
say.
in, it really went downhill. But the mythology and the way they did the werewolves and everything was really good. In like I think I'd say the first 3 seasons.
That's next on the list. Paint Dreadful and Teen Wolf. Um,
I'm saying
so
like it's a they took a property and made it its own, even being based off something. So
I like it. All right, Tyler. Who is the definitive Wolfman?
and it's Lon Chaney Jr. And even though he was the first Wolfman, okay, the actor like had already played all the other monsters at some point in time, but this was kind of his monster. But what he does to brings to the Wolfman is the story of tragedy, of being a good man cursed and turned into a monster. And there's such his eyes. It's Lon Chaney's eyes, man. His birth name, Creighton Chaney. You know, he didn't later adopt Lon Chaney Jr. until later when it was pushed on him to use as a stage name. Um, but there's a tragedy in his eyes. And there's a lightness, but there's also a sadness. And I think Benicio del Toro has that as well. And that's why he made a really good Larry Talbot. And this new guy, he has that same kind of look to his face. And that's what I like is there's something they can convey just by their look. And the Wolfman Larry is a good person. And if you ruin that, you ruin the character because when he becomes the Wolfman, it's his darkest self, his animal desires, and he's wrestling with that. There and like we said before, there's certain aspects like the Wolfman is a wolf man, so he needs to be more manly with his werewolfism and not a wolf like they did in Van Helsing. Like that's the difference between like a werewolf and a wolf man.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said, Wolfman was a universal thing. Like I personally love the look of the Benicio del Toro Wolfman. Like I love the look of that
It's a
movie.
solid look.
Go listen to me and Brian's episode about that. You hear me talk about that in more in depth. But Lon Chaney Jr. just has a lovability to him that you immediately like the guy, you're with the guy, and then your heart is broken when the curse falls on him. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just and I think what helps is that Lon Chaney played him the most. Like he's the only
yeah,
guy that
played
ever
the
played
Wolfman.
that role the whole way, and that's something that definitely helped him.
Karloff, if I'm not mistaken, Karloff did Frankenstein 3 times.
He did it. Yeah, he did it in Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and then
Was it Ghost? Was it Son
Son
or
of
Ghost?
Frankenstein.
Okay. I always get those two confused. I always flip those in my brain for some reason. I know he did it like 3 times, and we'll talk about that more. But yeah, the Wolfman through all 5 appearances. Yeah, 5 appearances is
So
Lon Chaney
Wolfman, we
Jr.
have
Wolfman, the Wolfman
Wolfman,
versus Frankenstein,
Yeah, House of
Abbott and
Frankenstein,
Costello,
House of Dracula,
Abbott and Costello. Yeah.
yeah, and Costello. Yes, sir.
And that really helps solidify him as that character because, because that character was a dual role if you think about it more so than any, because you had the person who then is the person in the makeup compared to being, um, I mean, the Mummy kind of was with Karloff, you had in the wrap and then out of the wrap. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Karloff has a iconic look in there, but most of the movie he's as a Armin Zola. I don't know. That was a Captain America joke. Okay, but yeah. So and so that's what Tyler says is the definitive version of the Wolfman. Um, I would say the definitive version of the Wolfman is Big Wolf on Campus. That's
Dude, I
that's
love
that's
that. Don't, dude, I love that show. Okay. It's so campy, but I love the theme song. And I will pull that show up just to laugh. I kick it up. I'll watch little bits of it on during spooky season. It's all on YouTube. It's so campy, but I freaking enjoy the crap out of it. Okay. Like it's just one of those things.
it's so good. I wish that we could. I wish they would release it on Blu-ray or something.
Yeah. I will take a
Just
DVD
something.
release.
Yep,
Uh, you
for real.
know, just a proper release of it. I would buy it because I've watched it with the kids and it's goofy, but it's fun. It's a nice little gateway into like the classic monsters.
Yeah, the answer, of course, is Lon Chaney Jr. That's just like, I mean, because there were like episode 5 of season 1. Everybody, that's the Wolfman episode. Um, like what we said in that episode, there was no book to work off of, so everything in that movie has set a whole mythology for the universal Wolfman.
I
So,
mean, Kurt Sidomac, I've heard it Sidomac before.
mhm.
Just go listen to that episode and you'll understand our answer a lot better because what he put into that script and that I read the original script before Brian and I did that episode. Um, yeah, just go check it out. It helps inform our answer.
Great episode. Now to the character that started off gravely amusing in a 3-parter first episode, um, Frankenstein. Now I'm talking about Frankenstein's monster here, but I'm also throwing at you Victor Frankenstein. Okay, so this is like a 2-parter: Frankenstein and Victor Frankenstein. So in 1931 Frankenstein, we have Boris and we have Colin Clive as Victor. In The Ghost of Frankenstein, we have Lon Chaney Jr. As a monster. And in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, we have Bela Lugosi. And then we have Glenn Strange for several movies. He is the actor that's playing Frankenstein the most, actually. Um, well, maybe the same as Boris. I apologize. So Glenn Strange was in House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Then we have Peter Cushing as Victor Frankenstein and Christopher Lee as the monster in Curse of Frankenstein in the Hammer series of the Frankenstein movies. Then I want to throw in Herman Munster and I want to throw in Peter Boyle as Frankenstein, the creature, and Gene Wilder in Young Frankenstein. And I want to throw in Tom Noonan as the monster in Monster Squad. And I want to throw in Robert De Niro from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Ken Branagh as Victor and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And then I'm throwing in Sam West as Victor, and she's only Victor briefly, and Schuler Hensley and Van Helsing. I want to throw in Aaron Eckhart in I Frankenstein.
I was about to say that one.
I have to throw in Now I haven't finished this movie. I just started like 20 minutes of it. But I want to throw in James McAvoy as Victor Frankenstein, and then Spencer Wilding as Prometheus, which I haven't seen him yet, so I guess I can't really grade that. Um, and yeah, so that's what we got so far. And then we'll have a little bit more discussion of the future of Frankenstein. So, who do you think is the worst version of Frankenstein, Tyler?
Well, the first problem that we have with this one is you have Mary Shelley's book and how she describes and what the monster
Absolutely.
is seen as and the evolution that the monster goes on in the book. You have this image thought, you know, but then you have what Universal made, and that became so iconic for the monster, and it's different than Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Um, but you end up having this battle of, well, that's why we've always kind of drawn this line that there's the universal monsters interpretation of basic characters and literary characters, and
I'm
then
glad that you're bringing this up.
everybody else's, you know, because you know Frankenstein the book and everything is public domain, so the character is available to use in a film. So you're not beheld to certain things. So all that being said, okay, I am open for different interpretations, but I really don't like it when they make it too much of almost being normal. And you know, you made a really good list because
Elaborate what you mean too normal.
oh, I will when I get
Okay.
to my pick.
Okay. My
Um,
apologies.
no apologies needed. Um, because you know these characters. Well, we'll get with this with Dracula too. They've been interpreted so many times, even in crap, low budget, cheap movies that you find on Tubi. And
That's why I had to shorten the list here
right, and
as
you're
much as I
perfectly
could.
right for doing so.
Thank buddy.
So my roundabout way of saying is like my worst version. It comes down to two, and I'll explain why both. Um, Aaron Eckhart and I Frankenstein because it just looks like Aaron Eckhart with some stitches. Okay, and that's why I say and Robert De Niro and Mary Shelley's because once again it looks like Robert De Niro with like some stitches and so, been busted up. And I picked those two because most other versions, even ones I don't really like, um, make it look more a little bit more monstrous and a little bit more as if maybe the body's not fitting correctly because you're using different bodies and different body parts. Um, so I give it a little leeway there. Um, but my big thing is I don't really feel that you're invoking. If you showed me those two, I could say okay, and then I would never think Frankenstein's monster until you told me. Even though you may argue that De Niro is a little bit closer to the book, I still think in the book itself there is definitive characteristics that need to separate that really make him more monstrous instead of looking like one person um, with some stitching. So that's my biggest thing with any other version. I can make a rationale where I can see what they were going for by either putting it together, stitching it together, and trying to do their own thing. But those two just look like the actors with some like I could go grab some Stitch makeup and put it on there and be like, I'm the Frankenstein creature, you know, and you'd be like, what the hell are you doing, Tyler? So that's my answer.
Where'd you get that scar? From women?
Yeah, correct.
I'm gonna go through the list as best I can and what works. So I'll leave Boris for the end. Lon Chaney Jr. as the monster. It was just for me. It's just kind of like, well, let Lon Chaney play every monster there is. It's just it's yeah, like I mean, it's okay. Lon Chaney is a great actor, but he's a Wolfman to me, so it just doesn't work for me. Um, Bela Lugosi as the monster was an awful choice, and I
Yes.
feel like because now if you in season one, if you check our episodes on Dracula and Frankenstein, so much plug for season one, but this is a hematoba. Um, but Bella was originally supposed to play Frankenstein's monster right after he did Dracula, and he passed on it because he didn't want to be defined as like, I'm going to play those monsters, and he regretted that decision because Boris did so well. So I think this was kind of like, I want to see if I could do well with this monster, and I could have done great. And it doesn't work, and it hurts more because he played Igor, he played Dracula. Like it just doesn't work. Glenn Strange was a decent creature, but he didn't add any depth to it. He was just kind of there, like, "Arr." Like there wasn't a whole lot of depth with Glenn
He was like,
Strange.
you couldn't get Karloff. I'm kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah,
But I do want to add this, that there's a through narrative that a lot of it kind of gets lost if you don't watch the Frankenstein movies in order, about how um his brain got switched out. He was supposed to have dialogue, but then they
yeah,
took the
yeah,
dialogue out. And like, so there's a through narrative that can help explain how he goes from being the more articulate creature from Bride of Frankenstein to where his definitive end, I guess, would be Abbott and Costello's film. Um, that gets lost, but
that's a good point. Yeah,
Lugosi,
yeah, it didn't work. Um, I want to Christopher Lee as the monster now, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about this probably in December, when Nosferatu comes out, but around that time. But Christopher Lee's version of the monster is really good. He doesn't say anything, but just the way he looks and just how kind of scary it is, I really, really enjoy it. I put that Curse of Frankenstein, I put there very, very high on the list of Frankenstein movies. Herman Munster, just fun. It's just meant to be fun.
if we had to pick a horrible Herman Munster, I would pick the one from Rob Zombies.
Don't get me started. Next year, we're gonna be talking about the monsters as we enter the 60s and as we
Sweet.
keep the historic thing going there. And I'm gonna break that down. Peter Boyle did a fantastic job. Young Frankenstein is one of my favorites. Tom Noonan did really good with the humanity of Frankenstein. De Niro, I'm kind of with you. He didn't. It just looks like De Niro with scars, but Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, very, it's pretty darn close to the book. So you have to
Yeah,
give it that. It's
I know,
pretty darn close.
and that's where I'm like, I battle with it, but
So I can't give my opinion on James McAvoy yet. Sam West is in the movie and Van Helsing for like 5 minutes, and I didn't like how Frankenstein looked all. I mean, I understand what they were doing, but it was just like a little overly Universal Halloween Horror Nights with
mm,
Frankenstein and like steampunky, and I didn't care. So I say the worst Frankenstein for me is probably Bela Lugosi with a very, very, very close Aaron Eckhart
okay.
because that was just trash. So, who do you say is the definitive Frankenstein?
I mean, you know, excluding like if you're going to be a purist, I'm like, oh, it's not like the book, because we know there's probably those people back in the day too. Um, I have to say Boris Karloff. That scene of
I agree.
his
I agree.
original intro. I mean, I'm wearing a shirt that's a representation of him walking backwards, then turning and seeing the face. you don't get Herman Munster, the Monster Squad, nothing, none of that without him. Like he became so definitive and iconic that every other version had to either do something to connect that or go in a completely different way to not pull back around to it. Um, do I think it's a complete perfect representation of what Mary Shelley is going for? No, because once again, that's a difference than the book. But this is the universal version. But it is an icon. Um, so you cannot escape that it is an icon that has forever, um, what do you call it? Put a mark on that character that will never be escaped.
I also have to go with Boris. Like it, there is no greater looking Frankenstein. You know, the the amount of hours that he went into with Jack Pierce for the makeup, you know, pulling out part of his teeth just to get that little like sunken in thing in his jaw. Just it's just so like I will never forget just seeing him for the first time and as he walks out and just being like, "Oh my gosh!" Like it's why I love the Frankenstein, the character. I mean, I love the book; it's my favorite book. But just seeing that was just amazing. Now, if we want to go to book wise, I I probably would go with um, the closest to the book Frankenstein version would be but Benedict Cumberbatch actually in a British stage play was
Yeah, that's a
probably the
cheat.
closest thing.
That's a cheat. That's a
It's
cheat.
but I'm gonna cheat here. But De Niro, that movie is probably the closest to the book, even
There,
though he doesn't look.
there's some off versions I've seen. I don't remember where the actor who did stuff in the book. That might be a good argument for the book version. But yeah,
Well, okay. So talking about the future here of Frankenstein,
mm,
um, so we have Guillermo del Toro doing a Frankenstein movie coming in next year. Next year, I think we have two Frankenstein movies coming out.
yeah, we do. We have Del Toro's and then Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride.
Yeah. So we'll start with one we probably feel hopeful about. So Del Toro's Frankenstein, my man. Andrew Garfield was originally supposed to play the monster.
Is
Like
he the
when it was a
monster or Doctor? I thought he was Doctor Pretorius.
well, I don't know. The articles I read was Andrew dropped out of the movie because of some scheduling thing or whatever.
Dude, I feel like no
I
matter
thought he was going to be, you know,
Pretorius.
Pretorius.
All I know is if I was cast in a Del Toro film,
Yeah,
I will make sure my schedule works.
you damn right you would.
You know what I'm saying? Because
You
that
damn
man
right.
makes beautiful films.
Absolutely. And Andrew Garfield, like he needs something big. So I don't know who the hell the monster was, but it's I thought it was going to be Oscar Isaac as the monster, but it appears that Oscar Isaac is going to play Victor, which when it was originally announced with Garfield and Isaac, I thought that Andrew Garfield was going to be Victor and Isaac was going to be the creature.
See, I thought that would be beautiful as well. Maybe they changed it or they pulled something on it. I don't know. But yeah.
Well, now the monster is going to be played by Jacob Eldori, which I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I don't know much about the guy.
I've just seen him. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything. Which is cool. Which means I could maybe actually I trust in Del Toro's casting
I do.
and I will um get to go in without any baggage of this actor. Um, I will
Yeah.
tell you
Yeah.
this for anyone who is listening to this who is interested. Del Toro has always been in love with Frankenstein, and I highly recommend you go on Netflix and watch Del Toro's Pinocchio.
I yes. I'm probably going to be
Bec-
watching it right after this.
have you not seen it?
No, you keep telling me to, and I'm a piece of crap.
He parallels a Frankenstein story with Pinocchio. Because, for a while, if anyone didn't know, he tried to get Frankenstein going multiple times and was unable to. And I feel like he put a lot of what he would want in a Frankenstein film into Pinocchio. And I would argue that it is very reminiscent of Frankenstein. So check out Del Toro's Pinocchio.
I'm going to. Yes, sir. Um, do you think well, I'm just gonna rush it here, but I think I have extreme faith in Del Toro because he is a humongous Frankenstein fan. Just look up pictures of his house or
Oh
views
my
of his
god.
house. It's pretty much my heaven. I would love to live in that house, but
That's where
I
I'm
have
gonna haunt
faith.
when I'm a ghost.
Sign me up too, but um, but I would have really liked Andrew Garfield in that movie, but we'll see what happens. Now, Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride. I didn't know that Maggie was doing this movie. I didn't know it was her. Um, I know Jake's in it. I don't know who Jake's playing. Let's Maybe he's playing Victor. Who knows? Have you
Maybe.
looked at the pictures of this movie yet?
I have. There's only been a couple. There's only been like one or two like official releases. One is the bride with her face. Let's see, there's an ink spot on it, and then one is the creature Christian Bale like pulling his hair back with his shirt like this.
Uh
Um,
huh.
those are the only official images. Everything else has been like behind the scenes set photo type stuff, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not passing judgment on it until I actually see any shots of actual film because I don't know what this artistic style is. The one photo is in black and white. I don't know the tone. It looks like it might be a period piece in some shots. So I'm just saying I'm intrigued. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm in, like I'm interested, and I'm not passing any judgment on anything until I actually see film and get to see the kind of tone that they're going with and what the story actually is with this. So,
The first image I saw of this was Christian Bale as the monster, as the creature, and I only saw the head, and I was like, oh yeah, all right, okay, yeah, Bale's an amazing actor, yeah, it looks great, and now I see this bigger picture, and I see he's wearing a jacket with a bunch of words on it, and then I see hope tattooed to his chest, and I'm getting a little Jared Leto Joker worried here. Um, I'm a little worried. That when I saw that picture first, I got worried, and then I saw this second picture of the bride, and and it's just some blonde hair, and then like some smear of black ink on her face, like you said, and then I see this picture of them kind of like zombies in the street with their face up. Maybe I don't know if it's a joke picture. I don't know what it is. Um, I am a little concerned, but I'm gonna give it a chance because I know Christian Bale can act. Um, but I'm a little concerned. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, I get your thoughts, and I'm looking at some of the pictures right now. Like, it's just so much behind the scenes set photo stuff that I'm like, I can't really discern what I'm looking at because you're just snapping a picture out of context. And, like she's wearing this red outfit, but I
yeah,
don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, we all assume that the bride's hair is always black with white, but her hair was red. It's just how they filmed it, to make it look black. To show
yeah.
up on the film. So I don't know what the actual color palette's going to look like until we actually see trailer, film, tone. You know what I'm saying? So as of right now, I'm interested. Um,
I'm
so
gonna see it. It's Frankenstein.
Yeah, we'll
But
see it like we did Madam Web, and we'll see it together. And if we have to bash it, we'll bash it together. So we
we sure as
suffer
hell will.
together. That's what friends do.
Speaking of bashing things, and defeating things and monsters and that, Van Helsing. I'm going to throw this at you, buddy.
The
Who
movie
is
that I watch
the
every time and wish was better.
okay? Out of these names, who is the worst Van Helsing?
Hugh Jackman.
Anthony Hopkins, Hugh Jackman, Edward Van Sloan, and Peter Cushing.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman absolutely is the worst. That movie could have been something special, and we talked about it the season finale of last year.
I mean, the problem. Okay, I will say this: the problem with that is technically everyone on there but Hugh Jackman is Abraham Van Helsing,
Yep.
where Hugh Jackman's Gabriel Van Helsing, um, which you could, you and I being the writers that we are, like, could do that. It's his descendant, that goes on Abraham or whatever. But yeah, just the Van Helsing character to me is a character that could really be done well. The idea of Van Helsing as your protagonist moving in and out of fighting different classic monsters is great. Just go listen to that episode, and I won't go back down that road again. So.
And who is the definitive Van Helsing?
Mel Brooks.
That's the correct answer. You said it before I could. Gosh, man, I didn't even. That's why I didn't even put him on the list. I didn't even put him on the list because I wanted to say that. The correct answer is definitely Mel Brooks. That's correct. Absolutely. With close second, probably being Peter Cushing.
Yeah, he was. I think
in the Hammer films.
Edward Van Helsing Edward Van Helsing, geez. Edward Van Sloan set an idea of what Van Helsing is. But I think Cushing played a better. He had just enough of the youth with also being older. Because my ideal best Van Helsing is like a man in his 50s.
Absolutely.
Like when he comes, like he's getting to where he's getting older, he's starting to think more about age and death. So there's something there, but he's not a young spring guy, who's still fit. Like he's starting to go down that hill. So he has a little bit of this obstacle, and there's that wrestling with mortality that he's facing more. So
no, absolutely. All right, here we are. The Lord of Darkness, the King of Vampires, Dracula. So Tyler, now on this list we have people that are not. They weren't named Dracula, but that's because of rights issues. But
Dracula.
They definitely were Dracula. So starting with Max Schreck, Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr., John Carradine, Christopher Lee, Klaus Kinski, who plays like if Max Schreck was really a vampire. So I guess maybe you have to take Klaus off the list because he's really playing Max Schreck. So Klaus, take off the list. I apologize, but I really love that version of the movie.
In Shadow of the Vampire?
Shadow of the Vampire. I love it. Yeah. I really love it. Because he picks up a mouse off the ground and he's eating it next to two stagehands. But it's a hard movie to find. I had to get it from the library.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's a very hard movie to find. I'm trying to get the physical of it, but we'll get there. Frank Langella. I hope I said his last name.
Langella.
Frank
Langella.
Langello.
Yeah, Langella.
Okay, Frank Langella. Yeah, Frank Mandela. Nelson Mandela. I don't know. Gary Oldman, Leslie Nielsen, Gerard Butler, Richard Roxbury, who was in Van Helsing, Jonathan Rhys Meyers from the Dracula TV show on NBC, Luke Evans, Claus Bang from the Netflix show written by Steve Moffat, and Nicolas Cage. Who is the worst Dracula?
This is probably the hardest one.
That's why it's last.
I know.
It's so hard. So
So
hard.
so as we do this, the question that I posed to Jania
Bring it on, buddy.
was, has there been a definitive Dracula movie or a definitive Dracula?
Well, that's what the whole point of this podcast is,
I know. And that
for
was
our
the
listeners to
question,
give the definitive Dracula.
because we talked about this, like, not even performance, just as a movie. Like, has there been one that's just like, that is Dracula? Because there's elements sprinkled in all these different versions, that's true. But even like, I'm going to say this, people will attack me for this. Come at me, bro. I do not like uh Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. With Gary Oldman. I do not like that movie. There are parts
How
that I
dare you?
like, but Dracula's not a love story. He is not some hopeless romantic. That was all invented for the film. Dracula is evil. Like, when you go back and you read that book, he is. And I'm saying all this because I have
So
to break
evil.
down. If you go, okay, I think the best portrayal recently of Dracula has.
No. We're talking about who's the worst
I
right
know.
now.
Okay.
Don't get there yet. Don't get
All
there
right.
yet,
So
because that might be your answer.
okay.
Okay. Okay.
It's hard to say the worst because so many versions have tapped into things that work and don't work. And you need to look at the book. And a problem with the book is Dracula is not a protagonist character. Dracula's in the background. He's a character of shadow. He's a character, he's a force that our other characters interact with. So he himself is not defined.
So, do you think that I should have put on this list the Voyage of the Demeter movie, Dracula?
I was gonna say that just to be a dick.
I'm
No.
not putting on this list because for me that I don't like that wasn't Dracula to me.
No, it wasn't.
No,
You and
we were
me,
so disappointed by that.
we were. It could, a couple of things could have helped that.
Yes, but
I'm saying all
continue,
this
my friend.
because there's, like we talked about, like, there's so many different versions where characters have ripped off Dracula, like Blade Trinity did their take on a Dracula type
Oh
character.
gosh, I totally skipped over that one. That was on my list. Yeah, Dominic
Um,
Purcell was on my list. Throw it on there too.
let's see, like, there was a version on Buffy, there was a version on the
Yep.
TV show Van Helsing. Like, so Dracula's a character probably been
Castlevania. You know.
done more than anybody, and there's a lot of cheap, crappy Dracula movies. So we're trying to stay in the realm of films that actually tried to be good and
Yeah.
actually tried to,
Yes, sir.
so all of that to say, I will have to say, just because I kind of have two, and I know I keep saying that,
It's
where I fall
it's
is
okay.
because I feel like
Go.
these two are the worst because they change the fundamental nature of the character. One is Luke Evans as Dracula Untold,
Okay.
because I feel like that movie's cool. I like that movie. It has its flaws, but I like it. But they make Dracula the hero, and he's technically Vlad, but he's still Dracula. Um, and then they still try to do an evil vampire character, so they try to have their cake and eat it too, and make him a hero. The other is the Jonathan Rhys Meyers TV show. As interesting as that show was, Jenny and I liked it, enjoyed it. They once again completely missed the mark of making Dracula this good anti-hero-ish character. And I feel like by doing that, you've fundamentally ruined what Dracula is. He is the Prince of
I love
Darkness,
your argument here.
the complete epitome of evil. I mean, even Adam Sandler's Hotel Transylvania Dracula is better. And that's a fun, family-friendly, fun version of the character. I will argue that's a better interpretation than those two characters I just named. So those are my two worst Draculas, because any other version you can throw at me, I can argue how that works better because it still tries to keep the evil nature of the character.
I love your argument. I completely support it. I thought about it in my answer, but my answer, um, I gotta say too, I know you kind of like him, but I really hated Richard Roxburgh's Dracula, and it probably because I hated the look. I hated the look of it. I don't like Dracula with like this like long hair and a ponytail, kind of gypsy looking weird thing.
You know
Um,
what?
and with the kids thing, like it's just I hate
I
it.
liked parts of his performance when we saw it, like when I first saw it, but then going back and restudying the book like we did last year or year before last. Um, yeah, it was the year before last was Dracula, last year was Frankenstein. Um, uh, I came to disapprove of it more because I saw what they were trying to do. But once again, that's still evil. Um,
Yeah, good point. Yep, that's
but
why he's not my worst.
but
My
I'm not a
my,
yeah.
my worst, my worst is Frank Langella.
See, I
Horrible,
that was one
horrible.
that would be my pick if I didn't argue what I just did. Because
Yeah,
Janine and I were talking about this when we were talking about if there's ever been a definitive great Dracula and a great Dracula film. And I was talking about why I don't like the Gary Oldman movie. Like there's things in that movie that I like, but I get bored with that movie too. And I just hate the love story because that's not Dracula.
yeah,
But the Frank Langella is like trying to make him this 70s sexy kind of, and he
yep,
doesn't look intimidating. He
exactly.
doesn't
The
look
hair
the hair like
and because last year, like I said to you, okay, dude, I'm gonna do, and like I started in July last year, and because I always start early because I just love Halloween spooky stuff so much. And then I was like, getting ready because I'm like, I'm gonna do this podcast. So, but I got as many Dracula films as I could, um, trying to get that collection up, and I got the Frank
Langella.
Phalange.
Just call him Skeletor. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. That helps me better. So Skeletor, the Skeletor version of Dracula, and I watched that, and I was excited to watch it because like I love Frank. I think Frank is an amazing Skeletor, and he just plays decent roles as villains and stuff. And but this was just yeah, man. It was just like the hair, and it was all about a love story, and like he bangs some chick in it, and like it's just horrible. It's atrocious, and it's the worst. So I gotta go with that. So Tyler, this is where it gets gonna get interesting.
Where it's gonna get interesting.
Who's the definitive Dracula, my man? I hope you don't choose the same answer I do.
It's tough. um and you know, I do want to throw out there, I think there's been really great interpretations that never really got the chance. Like I'm gonna say, I think Nicolas Cage did a really good part in Renfield. I would have liked to have seen some more of him
Yep,
because I feel like he didn't get to do enough. On the bad side, again, we didn't really I didn't like Carradine. I can't remember his first name.
John
Um,
Carradine.
yeah, I
Yeah, he
think
sucked. Totally sucked.
he sucked. Like, um, but Dracula's so tough. But I mean, I think I really it honestly comes down once again to two. I know. Yeah, who's my favorite Batman villain, Brian?
Two Face.
Yeah, I know. See, okay. I it's kind of like how like we can argue that Henry Cavill's Superman was great, but didn't get the movie he deserved, or like Ben Affleck's Batman was great, but we never got the movie of him by himself, so we didn't really just see the character. I think there's a version of Dracula that I think was really great. I think he brought everything that needed to be scary, likable, creepy, underhanded. But I feel like because you're trying to remix, do something different, change the material, you get lost in it. And I think he could have been the definitive Dracula. I won't say who it is. I'll wait till after you talk because I don't want to steal anything from you. I'm going to say Lugosi because of the iconic imagery. He only played the character twice, but when you think Dracula, his stamp is so deeply rooted in the imagery of that character, you can't escape it. Even versions like for children, like the Adam Sandler and Hotel Transylvania, call back to that version. His accent, his look, he might not have been the best, uh, most menacing, but there is a poetry, a suaveness to him, and he is iconic. Um, but I will say Lugosi, and I'll mention the other guy after you talk.
Okay. Um, everybody, I like how no one said. I like how you didn't say Gerard Butler.
I think that I like the twist of that movie.
I
I
like
think
the
it's
twist of it.
interesting, but being Gerard Butler was a weird choice.
Fair enough. Um, I also like. Um, I think Nicolas Cage could have done better if we would have got more of them, but and you and I've gone back and forth with this. The teeth really hurt him.
I'm a simple man.
Really
Just
hurts him.
give me two fangs up top, two at the bottom that come and go. Like they go in, they go out. Like I don't want a whole shark mouth of teeth.
Yep. Um, and Bela Lugosi's so iconic. Um, so most people will say that's a definitive Dracula, like no question. But for me, Bella was probably always the one, and a lot of people want to go with Christopher Lee, and I haven't seen all of them yet, but I watched like the first three Christopher Lee Dracula movies, and they're okay. They're not horrible, but and like I love like the red eyes and like he's very evil and it works and stuff, but not all the movies really hit. Um, some of them are just it's okay. But for me, the Dracula, in my opinion, that is the new definitive Dracula for me. Um, except for maybe when we get to some elements of the later part of the story of the Dracula. Um, I have to go with and I'm probably butchering his name too, Klaus Bang.
It's
Um,
it's it's Klaus Bange.
Klaus Bang from
It,
Steve Moffat's Netflix show.
and that's my runner up. That's why I didn't want to say who it is,
So that's not your
because
number one?
that's why I said he's my it was between him and Bella.
Him and Bella.
Bella, I went for the iconography and just that presence, because you don't get to Klaus without Bella. But dude,
Yeah.
anyone just
Dude.
watch the first episode of the Netflix
Woo!
series. I begged Brian to watch that one. He's like, "No, I'm watching in order," because that is the first time I've ever
Or
watched
didn't you
anything.
want me to watch the second episode first?
I wanted you to just get to it. Like I wanted you to just get to that because I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about it with somebody.
Yeah.
Um, I just recommend everyone watch the first episode and
Whew!
the third one, no. Um, but that
Yeah.
is the first time I've watched anything with Dracula where I felt that was evil, where he was evil.
Yes.
And I mean, he played such a great Dracula, and I feel like he gets forgotten. It's because it was a BBC thing, and then it was put on, then it was on Netflix, and it just doesn't get uh the attention that it deserved. But he brought something that was just, I mean, he brought Dracula back to being something scary and dark. And he did such a good job. And I mean, he has that look and the way they did it. I mean, it's
And they
unsettling.
start him as the old man with hairs on the palms and looking weak. And then they do it just like the book, where he gradually becomes younger as he feeds on Harker. Um, you know, that scene, I mean, I don't want to spoil everything for everybody, but there's two scenes for me that just, oh gosh, it just sells it. And it's the scene where he's on the rooftop and he's laying in the shadow uh,
Mhm.
while a character is laying in the sun, and the character is being suffered by the sun, and he's just laying there in the shadows right next to him, just on the edge of that sunshine, and he's just taunting them and messing with them. And and probably and then other than like the whole like it's the whole first two episodes are just, oh, they're magic. So the first episode is more so like the whole entire story of the Dracula book up until he gets to the ship as he's going to London. So in that first chapter, the most iconic scene is when Dracula is at that gate. And I don't
Yeah.
want to go into full detail of what the
Just
gate
go
is.
watch it. Like,
It's, oh my gosh. And just the conversation between him and the person on the other side of the gate, it's just Dracula's pure evil. And like it's just so good. And I'm a huge Steve Moffat fan for his run on Doctor Who, for his run on Sherlock with
coupling,
Cumberbatch. This man can write. He knows what
coupling.
he's doing. Um, it's just phenomenal. And then that second episode is all on the ship of the Demeter, where it's a whole entire season of just him being on the boat and people dying. And it's exactly like, I think even before we watched it, Tyler was like, if I were to do a Dracula movie, I would just do it on the boat
Yeah,
and do that
that was
whole thing.
years ago.
Like
That was
years
before this
before
even
you.
dropped. Yeah.
Yeah. Um and he it was just so good. Terrifying, suave, love it. So go ahead, buddy.
I was gonna say the third episode is like when he gets to London, but there's some twists in it, and I feel like they tried to do something with it. They tried to update. They tried to make some changes, and I didn't like the third episode where it landed and how it ultimately concluded. And I think I would have loved, like, this is where I get up frustrated about stuff, is if they would have just taken Mr. Bang here and done a proper Dracula story, it would probably be the most definitive iconic Dracula ever. Like it
Hands
but
down.
because they kind of try to change it up, and it also, I mean, if I remember right, it didn't drop either late 2019 or something on Netflix. I'm trying to remember when it actually came to Netflix. I feel like it came during the pandemic. Because I feel like, and so many shows either got lost or old shows became new again during the pandemic because people like rediscovered them. Because I just remember seeing the trailer, and it says 2020 is when it came out, but I think it came out before then.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
It
Yeah, it's
says January
2020.
4th, 2020. So right there, it came out right before the pandemic, and I feel like it just kind of got lost.
Unfortunately, yeah, it really did. So,
You don't bring Dracula out, okay, in January. Like, you release it around spooky season when everyone's thinking about it. It would be the first thing on the top of
which is a
everything
great
you do.
segue into the next thing I want to discuss.
Let's talk about it, because then I got to roll out of here.
Nosferatu, Bill Skarsgård, is releasing this movie on Christmas. Horrible idea. My wife thinks it's a horrible idea.
It is a horrible idea. It is. I mean, it completely is a horrible idea because I understand counter programming, but
Yeah.
dude, if this movie was coming out September, October, November, I would eat it up. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, I'm excited for it, but releasing on Christmas Day is like kind of laughing at people like, haha, we're gonna release about the Prince of Darkness on Christmas. And I'm like, first of all, I don't like, I want to see it, but I don't want to go to the theater for that type of movie on Christmas when I'm full of joy and happiness and being very thankful for the blessings in my life. I
Well,
don't
that's
want to
why
go
it's
see
perfect for me. I have no joy.
something, dude. You are a blessing in my life. I don't want to go be dour.
Stop hitting on me.
Um, and so like it's this conflict. I mean, we've only ever went to the movie theater one time on Christmas Day, and that was back in 2012 to see Les Mis, because that was Jania's
Oh,
favorite musical, and we went
yeah.
later in the day as a whole family. Okay. I'm not a huge fan of going on Christmas Day exactly because I think movie theaters should be closed that day. I think at least if one day of the year they should be closed to allow people to actually spend time with their families. Even if you don't celebrate Christmas, whatever holiday, just give them a day. I think Nosferatu is going to be really good. I think it's going to be Robert Eggers' best film. I think the cast is amazing. It'll be fun to like talk about just Nosferatu versus Dracula at a later date or something. Comparing, this will be kind of the third Nosferatu film. I think Skarsgård is going to knock it out of the park because I feel like playing those characters are definitely more his wheelhouse. I have one concern for the movie, and it's a stylistic concern, is if you watch the trailer, every frame is an adjustment to center. Every character is brought
Did Wes
to
Anderson do this?
I mean, even Wes Anderson has a kind of that thing, but just go watch that trailer again with that in mind, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I'm like,
No, I just saw it as I looked up the movie. I saw it out
and,
the corner of my eye. You're totally right.
I'm like, okay.
Everything just it pans and then it just goes like boom. You're totally right.
And I'm like, that could work, or after a while, it might become distracting and troublesome. I don't know. I'm throwing that out there from watching the trailer. I just really wish it was coming out the end of October into November, because or even like, I know people always say January is where you dump movies, but sometimes January is where movies like that can thrive because there is nothing else, but it also fits my tonality because let's face it, January is a depressing, a lot of times dark time because we're coming out of Christmas. There's nothing to look forward to. It's cold. The best thing in January is Solomon's birthday. But yeah, I don't think releasing it on Christmas Day is smart. I mean, think of like even what, we had the Battle of Films back years ago when it was Bumblebee, Aquaman, and Mary Poppins, and they all came out like the 20th or something of December.
Yep.
Not on Christmas Day. Has there ever been a movie that's come out on Christmas Day that's actually done really well?
Didn't RDJ's Sherlock Holmes come out on Christmas?
I'm gonna look it up. I'm curious because sometimes they'll come out
But
around
this
Christmas,
year we have Sonic 3, which is going to kill it. We
which comes
have
out the 20th. You know what I'm saying?
Mufasa, yeah, and then we have this. Oh, dude, we have Wicked.
Wicked comes out, I thought, in November. Okay, hold on. I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay.
I'm pulling up what's coming out.
Okay.
Wait, that was last year.
But I'm with you while you're looking it up. I'm with you. Like, why did the Haunted Mansion remake fail for Disney? Because it came out in freaking like June or July.
It came out in July against Mission Impossible and Barbenheimer. That movie should have came out movie should have came out in September.
First week of September.
The second or third week of September at the latest, because people's mindsets are there and they're more apt to say, oh, I'm in this kind of mood. Let's go to the movie. I don't know if I really want to see this, but it fits my mood. Let's see it as a family.
Yep. And like Beetlejuice is, the first
primed.
week of September,
primed to kick off the season.
Venom, the third Venom movie's coming out in October. You got Joker coming out in October. Like, there is a week in there where you could have dropped Nosferatu and kill it. But Christmas, I'm going to see it, not on Christmas Day, but I'm going to see it. But I just think it's a horrible time choice. And if they would have shifted to January or October, it would have been great. So Christmas movies, go ahead.
I'm looking here. I was trying to see what else coming out. It just says in December. But I was trying to see this website's not giving me what I want.
What you really, really want.
I know. I hate when I want to look something up and it just doesn't pop up the way I want it to. But give me a second here.
That's all right.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Coming in December. Wicked comes out November 24th. Perfect.
Oh, okay.
That's the perfect kind of thing. Exactly. Perfect for that movie. It's going up against, and then the week after it's Moana 2. Okay. That makes sense. And then 2 days before Wicked, because they're that's Gladiator 2. All that makes sense.
Oh, that's going to be a fight.
And then the 15th of November is Red 1, which is the Santa Claus comedy with Chris Evans, The Rock, and um, um,
Yeah,
J.K.
that's gonna.
Simmons.
I think that movie's gonna be fun. I saw
Ex-
the trailer with it with
ex-
Covenant or not Covenant Romulus.
And you're
I think it's
releasing
gonna be fun.
that, mid-November. That movie will probably have legs because as people go into the holiday season, I would have released it like the first week of December, but because after, here's what we have: November 29th, Moana 2, December 13th, Craven the Hunter, December
Yeah,
20th, Mufasa, and Sonic 3.
Sony
Okay.
was stupid for moving it to December,
And
but
then
Sony's stupid. Period. So
Christmas Day, you have Completely Unknown, which is the Bob Dylan pick. Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance. Oh, that's on Netflix. Never mind. This just shows everything. And then we have Nosferatu. Excuse me. So
that that
I
Bob
just,
Dylan movie is relying on Timothy, but it's a bad time to release that too.
and it's like I'm not going to go to the theater to see that. Okay.
I love Bob
Um,
Dylan, but no, probably not.
um, I'm just saying you're stacking up movies at the holiday season that have a vibe to them for the family. Like we had a whole thread shout about Sonic versus Mufasa. I think
Yeah,
releasing things um on Christmas Day that are like, what was it? Do you remember years ago there's that, I think it was called like Darkness or something. It was a movie with oh poop. The who played Rogue? Anna Paquin. It was called like The Darkness or something. It came out on Christmas Day and it flopped. So I'm just saying, like, I think Nosferatu on Christmas Day is just a very weird choice. Um,
I don't know if it's gonna flop, but it would be do better if it was later. Yeah.
I
Um,
don't think it'll flop. I think it might have to have legs. Um, and I just know that I want to see it, but I'll probably end up seeing like the 26th or something.
yeah. Yeah, for real. Um, but I think Bill will kill it. Which he'll need to win after the Crow, which I
Yes.
haven't seen the Crow yet, but I just know. I mean, we knew it as soon as it was announced that don't do Eric Draven and do something
Well,
else.
I will say this. What's
Did you see
interesting
it?
is, yeah, me and Janine went and saw it.
Okay,
He's not Eric Draven. He's just Eric. They never give him a last name.
really?
And two things that could have helped this movie: one, more competent editor. I'm just saying with the movie that we're given, okay, not
Yeah,
like, oh, let's rewrite it. No, a more competent editor of how they edit the scenes and pace the film,
yeah.
not using Eric and Shelley's names, and giving the movie a subtitle. If it had been like The Crow Redemption, The Crow Sacrifice, The Crow
The
whatever,
flamethrower.
you know what I'm saying, would have helped this movie so it stepped outside and not, because it's not a remake at all. It's a completely different story. There's really nothing in it that you could. I'm gonna kill this cat.
I hear you, buddy. I hear you. I'm with you.
But back to the monsters. This was a great
That's the
episode,
most.
Brian. We did a good
Um,
job.
yeah, yeah, I had fun with it, and I thank you so much for being with me, Tyler. How can people like find out about you and all this creative stuff you do?
Well, my main podcast is a Krypton Report. You can find that anywhere on social media, YouTube, and your favorite podcast platform. My other thing I do is my movie pitch, movie discussion podcast, Requel, where basically we take an idea of a property, and then I kind of pitch you like what I would do with it as from my writing perspective, and we talk about, would we make a sequel, a remake, a reboot, a midquel, whatever we would take a property or a franchise, and we discuss how we would do that if we were the ones in charge of making it. So
Which
look that up on
oftentimes
YouTube.
you probably should be the one in charge.
It's a fun think piece, work
It's,
exercise.
yeah, I like when we had our drives back in the day.
Yeah,
We had
which
some.
we're overdue for.
Yes, hell yeah, we are. Well, my wife is recovering still from surgery, so I do not know when the next time I'll be able to do one of those because she's number one priority.
As
So
she should be.
as she should be. So I will eventually see The Crow and stuff like that if it's still in theaters. I'll probably stream it, but before the time. But
I would be highly surprised if it's not announced like next week that it's already going to hit streaming. I'm surprised it hasn't already been announced now that's hitting streaming.
Yeah, because Borderlands went immediately.
It went 3 weeks.
Yep.
3 weeks. And The Crow's been out a week. So I would not suspect if next week they were already talking about putting on streaming because you have new movies coming out that's just going to push it away.
Absolutely. So like our next episode might have Steve back if he's not doing family stuff, because I know his daughter just went to college. But we're gonna be talking about Beetlejuice, and our top 3 ghost themed movies. And if you like this podcast, be sure to leave a 5-star review and follow and subscribe on the podcast player of your choice: Apple Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, what have you. And join our YouTube channel and tell your friends about us. I have been Brian Peters. He's been Tyler Patrick. And I hope this podcast thrilled you. I hope it shocked you. And if nothing else, I hope it left you gravely amused.